No. I'm gonna keep at it. I just fishing quite so small and quite more agile than what the stock PIDs on the audio
Yeah.
plane are tuned for, because those same stock PIDs fly this thing very well. I mean, I don't even know if I have to do an auto tune or something. I will do it just to see what the effects will. Oh, somebody's coming back from the dark ages.
Here's,
Look at that.
here's styling by explosion.
Yeah, Gary.
We can't hear you, Gary. You're very slow. You're very intermittent. No noise. There's no audio. You got to put 2 coins in the meter.
So yeah, today was a fun experience, definitely. I managed to fly this thing 4 times. It crashed one time during takeoff because of the pitch oscillations.
One.
Okay.
Well, he's making a noise now. Must have had one of those Tanzanian curries. He's not well.
Yeah, sure sounds like that.
Oh, just tell me something's happening.
Something's happening, but it's not a good thing.
No, generally. So hang on. Let's just recap. I couldn't get back on this, and this laptop decided to update itself.
Windows 10.
As I started, yeah, it's just, oh no. And I'm on the slowest machine I own with the lowest resolution camera, but there we are. Such is life. G'day, Ian. G'day, Bruce. And g'day, Nicola. Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank goodness it's only the people, my chums, that will put up with me. That's the main thing. And hello, 3 viewers. Have you been talking about news and things that are exciting and interesting?
We have.
Yeah.
Have you? Was it really good and you don't need to tell me?
Yeah. We'll stop now that you're here.
Oh, no. Okay. I think I heard about PIDs and tunings. And Nicola, have you crashed something then?
You can say that. Almost.
Isn't that binary? You have or you haven't?
This thing today was its maiden, had 4 flights, 1 failed takeoff attempt because of some pretty violent pitch oscillations. And I'm still digging in. I was just telling Bruce about that. I'm still digging in, and we'll probably do over the next few days, probably not, because I'll be traveling, so possibly not going to take this plane with me. I'm thinking of the Nano Talon, which is sitting over there waiting for its turn. But at least I know it's not doing any crazy stuff. But some violent pitch oscillations on this thing, 1 failed attempt, 4 successful flights. Some of them were a challenge. But yeah, I haven't actually checked the recording from the Split Mini 2 that I have on board this plane, but that camera actually survived that failed takeoff attempt, which literally took the plane apart. And I was quite surprised, because I really thought that cable connecting the PCB and the camera sensor would be a lot more fragile. But actually, it held up pretty good, which really surprised me, because that definitely was not the experience I've had with the first RunCam Split, because that thing just required you to look at the cable the wrong way and it stops working. And actually, I still haven't been able to get it working again. Not sure if I have to order some new cables or what's wrong with it, but I still can't get video out of that thing.
So does that mean we are to call crashes now failed takeoff? Is that the new definition?
What? Sorry, I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, is it really bad? I have no idea. Is it so? A crash is a failed takeoff.
Yeah, it took off. It started oscillating and just sort of pushed itself down into the ground, then jumped off of the ground. I saw like a of parts fly out of the wing, and it spread itself around a decently sized area. And luckily, the way I put this thing together, it just can't break into that many things. So I was able to find, yeah, I was able to find everything pretty easily, and nothing was really, except for a piece of foam, nothing else was really damaged. Even the run cam cable. So yeah, pretty happy about that. The foam definitely held up pretty good. I would have wished to go the day without that incident, but you know, sometimes you just can't help it.
Is it foam or is it, well, EPP is foam. Is it foam or EPO or EPP?
It's some kind of EPP with
EPP.
something ahead of it. I was looking at the Zocht website recently, and there was something EPP. So it's some version of EPP. It's not EPO for sure. It's a lot softer than EPO. And actually, in today's situation, I think that's it's better than it was an EPO.
Yeah. No,
I miss the days of polystyrene. Polystyrene was great because you could pick up your model with a vacuum cleaner after you crashed. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. So, tell me, what else has been happening in the world, gentlemen? Ian might know, but I see that DJI grounded the M200 series. Not DJI, the CAA grounded the M200.
Yeah, we were just talking about this earlier. The West Midlands Police had one. I think there's probably been a few that have dropped, but it was West Midlands Police had theirs drop, and it landed on a commercial property. So they were none too happy. So they went to the CAA, and then obviously they brought out the safety notice. I mean, it's not the first time that DJI gear has been falling out of the sky, and even with commercial operators, there was there's a few. We've got the commercial operators with the A2. They did a firmware flash, and this is actually really annoying, because the firmware was actually causing them to flip over and then fall out of the sky. And they then republished the firmware, keeping the same firmware number to try and I think whoever put that out was trying to hide what was happening, because they put it out with the same version number. And then
hang on a minute. Can you just explain that again? I don't understand. Go through that again.
Yeah, when you issue a firmware, you have normally the normal process will be you have a release note with it, say this is in the firmware, and it will have a version ID. So this firmware went out, people loaded it on, they started having problems, and then another firmware was pushed. Now, what you should normally do is increment the number so people know it's a new one to correct something in the previous one. But no, it just went straight up a new one with the same version number, which is not normal software process. Which was fine when people put that on, it would fix it. But if you'd already had the firmware, because the number wasn't incrementing, people then had problems putting the correct firmware on. But because obviously this was a number of years ago, drones weren't that much in the media and so on. You weren't having your police forces flying them. So you kind of got away with that, although I think that's bad practice when things are in the air. And also with the Phantom range, they had the falling out of the air on batteries. Now, my understanding at the time was what was happening was DJI didn't like the fact that third parties were making batteries and people were buying those. So they put a check in the firmware, and instead of doing something sensible like saying not taking off because it wasn't a legit battery, if it was in the middle of the air, it would just power off as well. And then it was doing false positives on legit DJI batteries. So they were still falling out of the sky. And then that had to be corrected. So, there isn't a good past history there of conduct. But these days, and especially when your police forces are flying them, you're not going to get away with that. If it gets noticed, it's going to end up being news. And it's bigger news than even I thought it would be when you see the BBC are covering it today. It doesn't do that image any good.
So it's on the BBC. So what did the BBC say today then?
Yeah, it was actually the BBC that have got the story we hadn't seen till then, that West Midlands Police had initiated the process.
Okay.
And the BBC did a smaller story, and then people must have been getting in touch with the BBC. And over today, it's gradually got bigger and bigger.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. No, I haven't caught up with that at all. And I thought the way that the Civil Aviation Authority framed it was, of course, perfect, because they didn't say it's grounded. They just said, well, you can't fly over people, you can't fly near, but you all the things you need to do in order to make money, you can't do anymore.
And I think with that being issued, insurers probably wouldn't cover it anyway. So you're effectively grounded, because no one's going to put that amount of gear up in the air and risking it falling out and it coming out of their own pocket. And this is one of the problems actually with DJI's approach. And I think this is where I think I think it's morally wrong. In fact, in the whole thing, you could say it's still wrong. But if you have one of their drones fall out of the sky because of a software bug that is entirely their fault, they will not replace the value of the payload on there that gets smashed as well. So if you buy a DJI drone and you buy a DJI camera, to my mind, the right thing to do if that falls out of the sky and breaks is you replace the drone and you replace the camera, because it is your fault with your software testing process and your QA process is thereafter. But it's not. The customer has to bear that full cost, and it's expected, well, you'll be insured and you'll claim off that. But I still don't think the insurance industry should be having to pick up those costs. They should be back to the manufacturer, and they should only be picking up the costs if it's genuine pilot error or mechanical failure or that kind of thing. So that's the view I have on it. I think it's been unfair, and especially it hits the hobby pilot, because often they can't get the kind of insurance that will cover the drone. They can get the third party, but it's been, especially in the UK. I mean, in the US it's been easier, but in the UK it's trickier to get a policy that will cover you and at a decent price for something falling out of the sky and breaking.
Yeah, it's quite big news, I think. I know they responded to it. I saw it, but I was traveling when they that DJI responded to it. I wonder that. Well, of course, the other thing, and Louis's not here, and we know that Louis has one of the new Mavics. Oh, did I say that out loud? Anyway, but that's the other announced today, wasn't it? Was the new Mavic? Oh, here he is.
Yeah, the Mavic Enterprise.
As if by magic. Oh, did you hear me talking about you, Louis?
No, I guess I'll have to see the recording.
Yeah, well, don't, because you don't want to hear what I just said. But it is true, and the policeman told me it was. So that's fine.
And I like to see a lot of your wing reports, and everybody happy that the plane landed.
Well, look, apparently, and Bruce is doing a video series, apparently some people do actually fly beyond visual line of sight, and it may be that people have flown further than what the Wingtra guys did today. But in their defense, there were, count them, eight aviation authorities from the Central African region, from around Lake Victoria there, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda. They were all there. There was a tracking stood up. The airfield, and you won't have heard it in the video, but before an aircraft lands, they fire a great boom, a big cannon to scare the birds, and it reverberates around the building. The airfield is behind the hotel that they were operating out of, and everything was coordinated, everything worked, and nobody died, and completely legally. So, in the big scheme of things, was it difficult? Was it hard? Not the actual flying, but the joining of all the dots was very impressive. I'll stop ranting, and you can respond to that, Louis.
Yeah, basically, what technology allows us today are a series of pieces that, when carefully combined together, can get great results. And that's the biggest issue. We have beyond vision line of sight command and control. We have beyond vision line of sight video feedback. We have machines that can fly beyond vision line of sight, like Nicola can attest. And the issue is basically what is stopping us to operate beyond vision line of sight. So nothing apparently except regulations. So I believe that event might be only for the African countries, and you guys there have a special requirement, which most of the time operations will be beyond visual line of sight. And for instance, Don Gain from Q Ground Control is engaged in a series of initiatives in Africa that they use remotely pilot RPAs or UAS as well, whatever you want to call them. And they operate and they bring small benefits, small gains to bigger problems. And that's how we should look at these initiatives, is different tools to achieve goals. And as long as we can clearly and reasonably add the pieces of technology together, it makes it very easy.
It did, and the regulators were impressed because the noises they wanted to hear were being satisfied in a archaic aviation kind of a way, and it did allow me. And I I did use my no GA below 2K line with 8 regulators today, saying, "Okay, look what the drone industry has done here. We're safe. We've got a complete command and control and overview, a picture of the sky, a synthetic sky. Any Cessna or whatever could just drive through here and would get in the way of this. And, come on, let's get them to the same standard as this." And hopefully they listen. So, yeah, it won't, to all of us, to this audience, our audience and us, we know we can fly that far. We know it's safe. We know this. We know that. But it was very nicely proven to regulators today. So it was very, very good. I was very impressed. And I know Bruce is very impressed with my high quality videos, as this is high quality as well.
Now the thing is
setting new standards.
And then you really drop the bar, lowering the bar consistently.
No, come on. You guys over there in Africa have very different requirements that we get here in Europe, for instance, or in US. The requirements are much different, although we share some of the same missions that we could act. So we have power line inspections. You guys also have power lines. So those kinds of beyond vision line of sight missions that a drone can easily do, we have the same. But then you have very specific cases. For instance, the initiative of poaching, the guys that create drones to avoid poaching wild animals in those large reserves, which most of those reserves are bigger than most countries in Europe. So, come on. Short of having a satellites with or having multiple Hubble telescopes pointing down to that region, there's no way to economically stop those poaching activities. So it's a very different approach there. It's great that you guys managed to do proof, and the companies like Wingtra managed to prove the viability of their solution, although their range is short. I was looking at their page, and we had a couple of months ago the lady from marketing from Wingtra.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's great. It's great to have these initiatives, and then come the professionals like Nicola that can fly for lots of hours, um, and can extend that. So uh, Nicola is pushing the boundaries of technology, while Intra is using existing technology. So it's a push-pull environment where enthusiasts are on the forefront of the development, pushing higher and farther away, and commercial companies come behind and reap the benefits of that research and development that casual users do.
So why aren't the companies working with the hobby to improve their lot and to learn from the people that are doing it? People like Nicola who are doing it safely and doing it regularly. Why aren't these commercial companies going to them instead of just making stuff up and handing it to the regulator and saying, "Look, we're safe"?
I believe some companies
Oh, because
are helping Nicola. And for instance, if you look at the ArduPilot partner community, we have quite a few companies that are helping ArduPilot to push the development. For instance, look at the plane that Gary loves so much, the Believer, the manufacturer of the Believer joined the partner program.
Oh, did it? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now look at this brochure. Look at this brochure, kids. Look at all that writing on there. That's very strange English. I don't quite understand that.
Is it a sewing machine brochure?
Yeah, it could easily be. Well,
or karaoke.
Enough,
Might be karaoke.
Yeah, but look at the name. Is that the right way around for you?
Siniger.
Well, it's almost like Singer, so it could almost be a sewing machine company.
I stopped making fun of company names. When you have the guys that do the Believer, the name of their company is okay, brings up a smile to us.
Yeah.
So I don't go there. I don't go there.
I'll take over for you, Louis. Don't worry.
I know you'll do, Bruce. I know you'll do. But
this thing is a Californian, a couple of guys, and it's come out of nowhere, and now they're saying it's produced and it's ready to go, and it's this and it's that and it's the other, and we've never heard of them. The best thing is it folds, the wings fold. I'll interview them tomorrow, and it's a very zhuzhy looking bit of kit. I know what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is the ex-CEO of EB, SenseFly, was here, and he and all the talks are going to be on this channel. The very cool production company are going to let us put them on, but he and nobody listened. He destroyed the delivery drone case. He unpacked it and said, "This costs this, that costs the other. You're never going to make any money." Everyone said, "Very nice. We've all got delivery drones." it was quite amazing. So there is a little bit of common sense kicking around here. This Wingtra thing, sound. You know what I get excited about things that it sounds like I work for the company. Its hovering and in the wind, and then its transition was actually pretty amazing. And luckily, none of the other companies are going to watch it. But on the day, even the innocent bystanders that were watching could identify that this was by far the best platform. It just looked solid in the air. So that was very interesting. And that's because the arms move, so they move the motors. So the thing doesn't transition. The wings always stay the same, as it were.
Yeah.
But the arms come up and then drag it along with it. But when it comes back into the hover, they're just, so you've already got a multi-rotor, but then they're just moving just like this, a tiny, tiny amount. And it was rock solid. And they've only paid me about $1 million to say that. No, it was amazing. It was amazing. And the Winktra, to be fair, on the first day when it landed, there's a hoon of a lot of wind. And the first day and today, both at takeoff and at landing, the yellow-billed kites were all over the thing. They wanted to eat it. Whereas the other, nothing else. The only thing they wanted to eat was this. So if you want to feed birds, buy one of these. It was
the tastiest drone on the market.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was about it that made it so appealing, but it was. But it's been very successful. I didn't want to talk too much about that. I wanted you guys to tell me what was happening in the world. Tell me else. Louis, have you had a multi-copter recently? Has someone let you use a multi-copter?
Oh yes, I've been playing around with something with 3 letters that has the word pro in the end. Starts with 3 letters, starting with a D, and it ends with the pro.
But
or
I know a
enterprise.
girl like
No,
that.
no, it's enterprise.
What are they talking about?
Oh,
and so what's it like? I haven't even bothered looking at the specs or anything. Is it any good? Is it any change? Is it whatever?
They made a few changes on the Mavic Enterprise that can appeal to some audiences. I believe they're doing with their Enterprise line. They're starting to have different payloads. They started with the S series, the 900, the 1000, then went with the big one, the 600, and now they're coming small. And for some, and they're very smartly adapting their existing flight platforms to different use cases. So it makes sense, although ridiculous. Some of the things are okay, funny, like the hailing the speaker on the Mavic. You have to pre-record the messages. So come on.
I don't understand. I haven't looked at any of this today. What's happened?
So they plugged a night-powered speaker on Mavic. You pre-record a series of messages, and when you're near the target, that thing plays the recorded messages.
Now, funnily enough, and interestingly enough, we didn't know what word to use when if there was a problem or an incident, and we ended up with heads up because it was multi-language. So when all the crowd were there, is what does it shout? And it was discussed putting a message in Kiswahili on the tannoy for just such a thing. So how interesting. Yeah, that was a problem we had yesterday and today. Is in the event of emergency, what on earth do we say? And in which language?
Louis, you don't think this is just an aerial music platform, perhaps? It's got your Led Zeppelin and a bit of heavy metal music while you're hiking in the bushes. It can follow you along with the follow me thing, playing music to you. It's fantastic. But isn't the Enterprise thing basically just a Mavic Pro with a hot shoe?
What was the name of those big radios that you could carry in the 70s?
Ghetto Blaster.
Ghetto Blaster, exactly. So it's 2000's Ghetto Blaster. No, it's not a Ghetto Blaster. It might get some uses. I only criticize there the choice of having a couple of pre-recorded messages and then you select which message you play. Okay, we understand. For instance, the torchlight one might be useful. Depends. I don't know yet if it will survive prolonged use of the torchlight. But it's funny to see them finding niche cases that broad communities, for instance, search and rescue, police events, something like that. They're targeting very specific needs of the market and adapting their flying platforms to those specific needs, adding just small payloads. It's an
interesting. There's no flare camera. A lack of a flare camera, that was quite an oversight, wasn't it? Because wouldn't this be perfect for search and rescue? And with the flare cameras you can get for your phone now for $200, surely that would be the must-have add-on for your Mavic Enterprise.
Oh, come on. For that, you have the M200 with the dual FLIR and visual camera, and that sets you back a cool 20,000 euros. So come on, you don't want to sell for 1,500 what you can sell for 20,000. Come on, Bruce, be reasonable.
But I wonder, is this an open source API for the interface to the Mavic Enterprise? Because I'm sure other companies will bring out payloads that will just clip on and away they go. And probably one of the first will be a low-cost FLIR camera.
I don't know. The API is on their SDK. I haven't looked at the SDK yet, but what I gather from them is yes, those, and you can also develop custom payloads for them. They open up a partner program for custom payloads that you have to pay an entry fee to that to develop hardware solutions, just like the made for Apple accessories. So you'll have made for DJI accessories, and you, for instance, you get the FLIR camera that seamlessly integrates with DJI with the SDK. So yes, they're bringing big companies because the entry fee is quite heavy. But it's great to see them. They're changing because come on, let's be honest. The flight parts, I believe they've got it nailed. So what can we do now? Someone up there in China looked at, okay, now we know how to fly. What do we do with these platforms that fly? And they're going.
Fix the batteries so they don't fall out of the sky. That's what you do. But did you see the promo video? They had that app on the thing which showed other aircraft in the area. What are they using? I don't know. I don't use DJI. Is that part of the DJI app already? That the proximity of other aircraft, probably ADS-B or whatever?
Yes, it's not ADS-B, is that Airware or whatever its name is. But basically, it's the same as an ADS-B system.
Well, that's the other part of the story, isn't it? Because they just dropped. Who did they drop? They dropped AirMap.
Yeah.
They dropped AirMap. They bought in Precision Hawk, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I believe from rumours I've been told, or I may have been told, and I'm not allowed to tell you, that other providers are going to shortly be picked. New winners will be available soon. So obviously they're thinking about that big picture thing, and I've also just thought of another press release that I haven't put out so far behind, because there's going to be a big thing in the UK as well, but it's probably all over the place now. So are DJI growing up then?
Well, someone was telling me also they're changing the pattern of the exclusion zone around airports to give a kind of a bow tie configuration, where they're going to have a greater exclusion on the approach and departure paths than out the side.
Yeah.
What a crazy! Who on earth would talk about things like that? What a ridiculous thing to suggest. It's your thing, wasn't it? You know, what a crazy idea.
No, what they did was they're adding they're adding besides the real data, they're adding the landing corridors to the system.
Yeah. You mean the bits where the airplane, because the airplanes, as Bruce may or may not have said in the past, the airplane's generally not either side of the runway.
No, the planes don't act like that, Wingtra. They don't come and over. They need some room to flare and stop within the tracks of Tocoroa, because not all of them do touch and go like they do in Tocoroa.
Yeah.
When is the crosswind? They just use the wide runway, the really short wide one, because they can't fly too well.
It's very short but very wide.
But what does amazed me is, you've got all this talk about, these airplanes flying, drones flying beyond visual line of sight and the problems. So you can't advertise drug paraphernalia in the USA. You can't advertise a gun by saying this is good for killing people, but DJI can advertise a drone that says it flies up to 7K away. How can they do that?
I don't think any of us have an answer, do we? I mean, because they do.
The range thing is I believe you were cutting out, Bruce, but I believe you were mentioning the range thing of their controllers, right? So the rationale behind that is we could go up to, so we are powerful enough to control a drone at 8 kilometers. So we are sure that within the limits of the law, you'll get perfect reception. That's the rationale behind those crazy advertisements.
Yeah, but that's sort of like saying this gun can kill a human, so it's pretty good for rabbits too.
No, it's the same. You're absolutely right. It's the same kind of advertisement. But come on, I'm not a marketeer. So that's what marketeers think people want to hear. So if marketeers,
the regulators, I don't know why the regulators don't clamp down on it and say, look, you cannot advertise that it's suitable for illegal operations, just like you can't advertise drug paraphernalia and you can't advertise guns good for shooting people. So why has drones got the special exception to the general rules that apply to other things?
Bruce. We both know that if you advertise, we have 20 dBm of power on our transmitter, and people go, huh? What's a dBm? What's a D? What a B? What a M? So nobody knows what that means. And if you say we are good to fly at 8 kilometers, people directly relate that to reliability of the command and control and video link. That's what, and marketeers want that instant connection with a purpose. So, and then we get the fringe cases. Come on, Bruce. We all know that guys that buy the Phantoms and the Mavics and all that stuff, most, if not the largest majority, don't fly beyond vision line of sight. Most don't do it. So it's
that's not what it says in the Daily Mail.
No, to be honest, I don't think that we can say that even from the evidence you look on Facebook, because it is every day it's a competition. Look at any of the groups, and it's I've got my drone and I've flown this far, and here's the map of it. So there's definitely this.
Come on,
it's a dick swinging contest of how far I can fly my drone. So they do get flown well beyond the distances they should do, and to be honest, that's where most of them are lost. So
imagine something for someone advertising that, saying that there are killers. That does not make all of us killers. If DJI sells 100,000 Mavics and 20 guys in a Facebook group do a competition, which is longer, mine or yours, that does not make the other 100,000 bandits.
A continual, it's been going on for years. It's a continual exercise in, and I've never quite understood it, because it's like all you're doing is taking it to what the manufacturer says it. You're not doing anything that no one has done before with the drone. You're not proving anything. But that's unfortunately that's what people do, and that's where a lot of the drones are lost, because they fly all the way out there because of the wind.
They go downwind.
And it goes down in the sea, and then they're complaining about it. There's a couple of ways you can argue this. If you look at sports cars, they'll tell you the top speed, and you can't legally drive that on the road. So you can argue, actually, that there are other things that we purchase where they will have limits on there that aren't legal to use, and they're allowed to advertise them. So from that viewpoint, DJI can have a valid argument for marketing.
No,
they can give the range.
No, they couldn't use that one.
That is one way.
Come on, the cars one is the easiest, Bruce.
But the cars one, those rules only apply on the road. You can take it to a private track and drive it at the rated speed, and it's not illegal. See, but there's nowhere you can fly a drone BVLOS legally.
Come on, Bruce. Try to go to a car dealership, buy a car, take it to the track. Take it to the track and see what happens to your warranty and to your insurance. The warranty bit, the dealer will say, "Oh, you went to the track. Here's your warranty." So
how does that go again, Louis? Can you show us that one again?
Yeah. That's like the international language of how the things change. You know, ripping paper is a different noise in English, a different noise in French, a different noise in.
I mean, I
So
get where.
in Portugal. Sorry, go on, Ian.
No, I was going to say I get where Bruce is coming from, because I mean I share the same view. You fuel the irresponsible behaviour if your marketing at the core of it is saying you can do this. I mean, I can remember even when DJI's adverts were, very irresponsible as well. They actually, one of the earlier adverts had a pillion passenger on a motorbike driving down a road, flying a Phantom alongside them. So, if you wanted to come up with something that was about as daft a marketing video as you could come up with, that was it. And it's obviously we don't see that these days. So we are moving in the right direction. But there is a valid point there. I mean, I wouldn't have issue with the distance being mentioned if we had some restrictions in there which you can put in the software where it literally stops you flying out. If we actually enforce, so you can do it obviously off your geolocation. So you can say, well, you're flying in the UK. We know you can only go 500 meters. It only lets you go that far. And if obviously you're a police force and you can go beyond visual line of sight, when you do your unlock, it can unlock that as well. That would be the common sense approach. And then everybody can't, we can't get flap over it. But DJI know at the end of the day that they're getting sales because of people flying it beyond line of sight, and they don't want their sales hit. And that's, that's the crux of it, and that's what's stopping, that restriction being put in place. We've seen all the other software restrictions, your geofence and that, to a lot of it's, to keep the regulator happy, but we haven't done that, and that is one I don't understand. Why aren't regulators saying, hey, Mr. DJI, can you put a software limit in it and stop people flying so far? Because if they can't see the drone, they can't react to any potential dangers, and they're more likely to lose it. And that's the reality. If you can't see your drone, you can hit wires and so on. And you see this all happening all the time. And yet, when people have the drone within the view, they very rarely lose it. So it's kind of in their interest in that you're not going to lose your drone because you can see where it is. But I mean, I can see the appeal for people to a degree, but I've always been of the opinion, if I want to go and film something, I'll just move closer to it. I don't understand the idea of, well, I'll set off from a couple of miles away when I could just travel down there and film it. But not everyone has that.
Well, there's a couple of things there, to my mind. There's so you don't need to go VLOS to cause issues with your whatever manufacturer. Many manufacturers' brands are available. You could be right next to an airfield and just go straight up from where you are and go to 100 meters, but you're right next to an airfield and you're causing an issue. So that then opens up, well, why isn't geofencing properly enforced in the bow time method? And perhaps that's coming there with that. And then you say, well, why do you need to go BVLOS? Well, I understand that some people might fly a distance further than we saw today, a distance of perhaps 30 kilometers, go and do an hour's worth of mapping, and then drive home another 30 kilometers at a time for tin medals, because that allows them to take off from a decent airfield that has a good view of the surroundings and is a safe place to land, and there's no, because otherwise you might end up taking your platform somewhere, a very dodgy takeoff site, to stay within VLOS, and that's kind of more dangerous than preparing the whole thing at a distance. So I think there's a couple of things to think about with VLOS and VLOS.
Yeah, but you're talking about commercial operations. I think the big problem we don't really have many commercial operators causing issues with airports and things. It's mainly the recreational flyers. So they're the ones. And most of the incidents that you read in the thing, it's 3,500 feet or it's 5,000 feet or it's whatever, they seem to be BVLOS flights anyway. So why doesn't DJI just say, we're going to improve safety, we're going to put these limits on? Because otherwise we're going to be forced.
They'll never sell them.
Yeah, but they're going to have transponders. Yeah, but if they just said to all the manufacturers.
But for instance, we have on Autopilot, but on Autopilot we already have something, and I use it quite a lot because I'm always using either master or release candidates of the firmware of Autopilot. we have the circular fence and a polygon fence. And I have a polygon fence that is on the flying field where I usually go to do the testing. And I have that fence always on. And sometimes I forget, and I try.
But you're outside of the mindset of the person that's bought the Phantom down at Maplin's or some other store and it's just flying for fun. You're already in a safe, but you're already in a safety mindset. You're thinking about what you're doing, and you might even have gone and got permissions to do it. So that's a good solution, but that's not the person we're talking about.
No, the person we're talking about is if DJI goes and copies something from ArduPilot and implements a circular geofence, which is a cylinder that is capped to whatever we define on the software, because we are open source. We can do whatever we want in terms of size and format of the fence. But I can do it easily and do a circle of 500 meters and capped to 80 meters from the takeoff point. And they can do it and have a disclaimer on their app that says, okay, this is dangerous, don't operate beyond visual line of sight. They can add that very easily, copying that from ArduPilot. It's very easy.
They won't sell anything if they do that.
No, they will. They will, because anything. They won't change a bit. Or what they have is just a warning to the users, because the user can bypass that. Then they can say, okay, we had the feature, but users disregard it. Oh, come on.
What's the point of that feature? I understand. What am I missing here?
And Louis doing it from the DJI viewpoint of this is the way you could do it, so that you look like you're locating the regulators and being responsible, but at the same time, you know the a lot of you won't lose any sales because you know a lot of the users just override it.
Yeah, if the user overrides it and wants to test out the limits of OcuSync 24, the latest version of OcuSync or whatever their newer protocol will be, they can go, yes, I understand. Yes, come on. How many of us have read the EULA of any product that we recently installed? None of us. So their EULA will say, if you want to go beyond this, do you accept the terms and conditions? And then 24 pages. Do you want to send by PDF? No. Do you want to accept them? Yes. Done. So
but the fact that most of these incidents near airports involve phantoms clearly indicate that most people are just saying, okay, thank you, but I want to continue anyway when it comes to the geofencing around the airports.
I don't think
it's not there. But geofencing isn't there. Sorry, Ian, but the proper geofencing isn't there. Well, I say it isn't there. It wasn't there. But in America, now that Precision Hawk has taken over that little thing, I think there's going to be a lot of unhappy people because magically, suddenly, lots of airspace is going to be unavailable to them that was available until recently. Yeah.
For instance, in Portugal, we don't have any integration with any app that limits the flights. For instance, the DJI app has the main airports, not much else. But the aviation authority has an app that I open up the app, I look at that map, and I cry because I can. I need permission to fly almost everywhere in Portugal because we are a small country. But the thing is, what did ArduPilot do to enable some kind of conscience to the users? And you know that because everybody that opens Mission Planner today will see a couple of zones that are colored and shaded on Mission Planner around Portugal, because the community added those exclusion zones to the Mission Planner interface. So the users cannot say they don't know, because it's there. But
Well,
it's
I
always
suppose
the responsibility of the user.
But then I suppose your idea of saying, I don't know, 200 meters, 300 meters, whatever it is, you've got this zone that you then have to accept again. As long as the app logs that you hit accept, then you've got a point at which you can say, well, that's the point at which you decided to break the law.
Come on, Gary. Come on, Gary. We know they log everything. How else could they know from a motor serial number which customer bought the drone?
What on earth are you suggesting? What are you suggesting, Louis? How very dare you? No, but how very dare you? No, but the idea that you hit that point and then the user has said, and they continue flying. I know what you're talking about, obviously, but they continue flying. Then there's got to be legal reasons why people can't do that. You probably can't. You probably not. It's like entrapment, isn't it? I'll say yes, and then you're trapped.
To be honest, this will eventually become a bit of a moot point, won't it? Because if we get these fins and you're supposed to be doing a flight plan, if you're breaking a law, it's going to be immediately evident, and it's going to be straight there with the regulator that can do you immediately. Although for that reason,
actually, but in the UK, it'd be the lollipop lady, won't it? It won't be the regulator. It'll be the party and the lollipop lady, and the most powerful people in your community. Because that's kind of the way it's going. There is, I wanted to say, somebody said to me, so, all right, let me show you this brochure. This will almost make good radio. So they said, where's the money here? Where's the money? So these were the companies, and they were very disappointed because I said the money at this conference part is this lot. These are the people that will end up making money. The UTM, if one of them's the winner, that's where the money is here. And I'm like, no, it must be buying platforms. No, it's this lot. And I do believe that if a winner is allowed to happen. We are living in strange times, and I started ranting on Bruce's behalf, and attributed blame to Bruce about model aircraft flying and the lack of innovation if we allow it all to die. And the grown-ups in the room sort of weren't aware that was happening in everybody's name, which surprised me a little bit. I don't know. Anyone want to help me out here with my
We've had slightly more evidence of that today, and this is a story. Bruce were talking about it before he came on, and if you've been off the internet, you won't have seen this because this is breaking news.
Hey.
It's kind of a small story, but at the same time, it's quite funny to cover it, and it's already getting a little bit of traction on the groups. But there was basically a drone pilot crashed his drone into a tree. I think it was council-owned land, but at the side of a golf course, and then decided that it might be a good idea to try and chop the tree down to get his drone back. Now it turns out this is a mature tree, and it's got about a £20,000 value on it. So everyone in the area is really upset about it. They've even actually got a photograph of the guy that they say that's done this. But the interesting thing was this: when the stories come out from the newspaper, the council have said, well, we don't allow anybody to fly drones. No one's allowed to fly drones on our land. We haven't given permission. But that's effectively council saying, as far as we're concerned, all drones are banned, which this is the thing I said I fear anyway, the fact that councils are just banning drones. I mean, in this case, obviously, this drone user's a complete dick, and he deserves the law getting hold of him and, it being dealt with, because that's not the way you deal with things. So everyone, I'm sure, and everyone I've seen is of that view. So, from that viewpoint, it's a complete dick. And then, to be honest, it's then bringing the rest of all the drone users into disrepute, because it gives us all the knobheads that cut down trees. So that's not any normal reaction. And we've all been used to, for years, for getting drones stuck in trees, I never thought that was the way to deal with it. I mean, I funnily enough had that with one of my early F450s, and it happened. And I just chucked stuff at it until I knocked it out of the tree, tried to catch it, missed, and it went slide to the ground. But yes.
Can you get me that guy's phone number? Because at my flying field, we have a 50-meter high tree just in one end of the field, and that tree has some weird magnetic properties that attracts every plane, be it foam, balsa, drone, carbon, aluminium, doesn't matter. It attracts
Put
everything.
A geofence around it. Just put a geofence around it, Louis.
I have my geofence, it's around it. But the poor guys that are flying RC don't. And it's right in one of the approaches, because we have a constant steady wind in one direction. And if you want to land against the wind, then you have to circle around that tree so that you can line up with the track. So that tree has some weird magnetic properties, Bruce. But
that shows you why FPV is better than line of sight in many cases.
Yeah, but you know that FPV for the old timers, like some of us are, some of us, not you. FPV is not something that the pure RC guys want. They want the pleasure of flying the plane and getting sore in the end of the day because they went and watched their Soleus or their glider flying at very high and all day. And we don't fly. The old guys don't fly FPV. There are some exceptions. Some
old guys don't fly FPV. That's because none of Louis. That's the case. None of us are old, so
I fly FPV, but if I'm going to fly a glider, I don't have anything on it. I don't have FPV camera. I don't have a flight controller. I don't have anything. I just have a plain RC receiver, the smaller, the lighter, and an electric. Come on, I still use a brushed motor on one of my gliders. So come on.
Yeah,
you're so retro and old school, Louis.
It's a historic flight that he has there. So what else have I missed this week so far?
The helicopter crash in the UK, the soccer stadium one, it took off and
I
then crashed into the car park. Yeah, and
I did miss that. What? Yeah, no.
Well,
tell me about
I was
that.
I was waiting for the media to come out and say it could have been a drone, because I figured, yeah, they're going to say this is how the media works. And they did. Well, they suggested it could have been a police drone, and the police said, no, it wasn't us. All our drones are accounted for. So why did they bring the drone thing into that at all? It was clearly just a mechanical failure of the tail rotor system or something, and then it just pirouetted to the ground and crashed. But the media is looking for an excuse to bring up the whole drone thing in a negative light every time, and it's so annoying.
The media,
tell me what happened?
Or someone that the media wants to make happy.
But so what happened? Was it launching from the football field, or was it and then crashed in the car park, or was it launching?
Yeah. It's the owner of the football club. It's about an hour after the match. It takes him and his staff obviously away from the ground, and it had just got up off the pitch and then lost control and hit the car park. And the annoying thing was straight away there were witnesses that said, "I was there, I saw it. It just came down." And one of them is, and I think it was today, is a previous England international goalkeeper, and his name just come to slip my mind this very moment. Peter Shilton, and he said,
"Oh yeah."
So even he said, "I have seen it," and no one had mentioned a drone that's been there as a witness statement that I've seen, and he's obviously the most high profile. So. I mean, I just seen a few things on Facebook, but I didn't bother reading them because I thought, why is someone even mentioning a drone? So it sounds like it's just clickbait for the media because they don't care whether it's true or not. All they need is the clicks through to the article for that day. The advertisers are happy, and that's it, really.
So Bruce just said tail rotor. You said something about the tail rotor did it clip the stadium perhaps as it went, or?
It's not known yet. I'll have to speak with the Ardo pilot, one of the heli maintainers of Ardo pilots, that is a professional helicopter pilot, and I'll try to see if he already knows something about this, because he is the go-to guy to ask things about grown-up helicopters, because from the footage I've seen of the surveillance camera of the stadium, the helicopter came crashing down in a weird pattern, right, Bruce?
Yeah, the witness reports that I read said that the helicopter took off and then there was an awful grinding noise and it lost power and the tail rotor stopped and it spun into the ground. So it sounds to me it could have been a gearbox problem in the tail rotor and lost tail rotor drive. And the first thing you're going to do as a pilot is, if you lose your tail rotor, you drop your power, because otherwise you just pirouette and get thrown out the doors. So it sounds typically like a mechanical failure.
No, you put the nose forward. You put the nose forward and try and get some authority over the tail surface to keep your yaw in check, and then you'd use the collective to bring the nose up and down. You'd want forward speed, but if you were in the hover or you just departed, then you wouldn't be in that place. You'd be in a very bad place. So
that's exactly where it was. It wasn't a bad place. It was only probably 150 feet up, I think. It was in the dead man's curve. Didn't have any forward speed. Failed. And I mean, I guess the thing is that from what I've seen in helicopter situations like that, pushing the nose forward is very difficult, because you've got all sorts of gyroscopic effects, and generally they tend to fall on their side when you try and do that and just crash down anyway once you lose the tail rotor. The way I've seen it, I know with model helicopters, what you do is you use the throttle to arrest your descent when you get near the ground. So you try to maintain a rate of descent and then arrest it with a burst of power before you hit the ground. That will result in you spinning up. In fact, there was one, I think it was a military helicopter. There's a good video on YouTube of them doing that. I think they lost power, and it's pirouetting slowly, and then as it gets near the ground, you can see that pirouetting picks up. He's obviously added power, there's more torque, and it actually just touches and then tips over. So everyone survived that one. But yeah, unless you're there, you don't know what happened, I suppose. It's all,
No, that's all
guessing.
As you say, if you're somewhere in the dead man's curve, you've got to be very quick and very lucky to sort it out. And we're being.
It was a big heli though. Was it an Augusta or something? Was it? It was a very large helicopter, a twin-engine turbine.
I don't know. I was looking at, just before this podcast, I was looking at about which helicopter it was. I couldn't find it.
Oh, I'll tell you who else was there. Was the thing today was the IATA man for the African region, and I was able. It might make Bruce laugh to say, I love the idea of no G8 below 2K, and this is how we're going to make everything safer for everybody. And the bloke actually stopped and thought about it for a while. That was pretty cool, because we're all about love and safety. That's what I'm telling him. It's all about love and trying to make it safe for general aviation.
Was that before he called security?
No, that, as you know, in my life, that's something that happens fairly frequently. So I am unable to actually detect when anybody calls security, because it just happens. No, there's lots of conversations to be had with regulators, and that's part of our problem. Is we're not. I think we're too scared of them. Let's go and talk to them. And no, but you must go and talk and say, well, why did you say that? And they might say, because of this, this, and this, and then you might say, okay, fair enough, and then it'd be beholden to us to communicate that fair enough point. But then similarly, they might say to us, oh yeah, fair enough, and then they might enjoy that point. But if we stand back and don't do anything, we're only going to get generally the wrong 50% of the conversation.
I think it's like, we've got to be affirmative, we've got to be positive, we've got to be, to a degree, forceful, because look what happened when the AMA tried to play best buddies with the FAA and the USA. That was an abysmal failure. You've got to present your case and present it strongly. And speaking of which, we can now fly drones in Takaroa. The council has finally relented and said, okay, we've changed the policy, now you can actually do it legally. So it's taken 3 years and a lot of head banging, but we did it.
Come on, Bruce, come on. Don't you have a little to blame by all that name calling to the guys? Come on, Bruce. You've been teasing them all along.
No, they finally came around because they realized I wasn't going away. And the easiest way to solve a problem is to fix the problem. And I was the problem. So by letting us fly in the parks, I'm not on their case anymore. I mean, you can wear them down. You just got to be, stick at it.
When is your elections for the council? In how
Next
many
year.
months? Oh, see? Come on, Bruce. It was just a matter of timing.
But he's already won. He doesn't need to go and join the council now, unless he wants some sort of disputes with garden sheds or other things that you can go and argue with people about.
Gary, should we start a campaign on the internet of what, Patreon or GoFundMe or something that we might start a political campaign to get Bruce as a mayor of Tokoroa?
No, because I wouldn't be that cruel to the people of Tokoroa. I mean, that really would be bad news.
Come on. We'll have everyone in Tokoroa mandatory wearing FPV glasses. So
they got enough problems without me being mayor.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Nicola, you've been very quiet. You've not jumped in on any of these things here, and you don't seem to be building anything. So now, what's going
on? Just messing with this thing mostly and doing some posting on Facebook. And besides, I'm not regulations and big helicopters crashing, not really my area of expertise.
Actually, these guys are Bulgarians. These guys, and I said, I know these are Bulgarian guys making this in China, but based in Silicon Valley. And in fact, they're called. And you must know them. You must know them because there's only 4 people live there. They're called.
Okay.
A very famous, a very typically Bulgarian name: Diego Morales, Maxim something, and Eric Barch. I'll let you read that. So yeah, that was the guys behind this. A lot of Georgians.
Yeah, that doesn't look like a team that's based around here.
Well, no, they're in Silicon Valley, but they very much make a claim. But they've definitely been flying over there because they were telling everybody about how there's no regulations and all that sort of thing. And there's some bloke on YouTube that's doing a load of BV lost flights, and he's going to ruin it for everybody. And I just stayed quiet. I just stayed quiet.
You're talking about me.
Well, I mean, you said that. I didn't say that. I said I stayed quiet. And you just put your hand up. I mean, I tried to help you out there, but you moved yourself into that position. What am I going to do?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah, you're completely innocent in all of this.
Yeah. Of course. No, it was very interesting that they made that point that they've been able to test because of the relaxed regulations over there. So it's enabled them. There's an advantage. Blah 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 blah.
And how many people have died in Bulgaria as a result of BV loss FPV flying? How many? Can you update us, Nicola? How many have died?
Lost count at 10,000. So
yes, lost count at
just stop counting. It's pointless. It's like stepping on ants.
Just stepping on ants. What does that mean?
No, I mean, for instance, today I flew that R-wing thing, and I'm about to throw it in the air, and I even live cast that on Facebook, and you can see that I'm holding the plane in my arm, but it's not armed, and it was weird. I didn't hear any screams, nobody was dying, and then I thought, okay, I should arm the plane. And I armed it. Guess what? Even before checking that it was armed, I could already hear a scream in the distance. Somebody was dying.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well,
And they how could they possibly know I had already armed the plane before me? And it's that thing with drones, They just have that effect on people. Shocking, really.
Well, they do, don't they? At the end of the day, you may be surprised to learn I've said quite a few controversial things here, and which is quite amusing. Is the people that flew me up here? I've watched their jaws drop several times. I said today that perhaps what we need to stop doing is stop mapping and stop doing this and stop doing that, and just concentrate on search and rescue until we get a good name for everything, and then we can carry on with the other stuff.
Okay, hold on. Everything already has a good name because nobody's died, and
No, that's
matter.
not true. That's not true, is it?
No matter the amount of joking that we're doing around here, or the amount of joking I'm doing in my videos about dangerous drones and people falling out of the sky, fact of the matter is there's not one death related to drones.
No, but if you read the mainstream media, there must have been thousands, and there's no benefit because all they're doing is A, trying to kill me when I'm going on holiday, and B, spying on me. That's all they do. That's all they're for. And that's perception we've got to change.
And they make an irritating buzzing noise. Don't forget that one.
Yes. Yeah. That's what they are. To us, there's no problem because we know the facts.
I reminded because of the noise. That reminds me of a key feature of the new Mavic Enterprise version. It's the incognito mode that you can turn off all the lights on the drone. Come on, what?
Can you turn those annoying fans off on the corner?
Oh my God, that's so out. Come on, incognito mode.
So what
doesn't it just have an ND filter over the camera?
No, you just turn off those small LEDs on the arms. Oh my God! What a crazy!
Just help me understand what has changed on the aircraft. Is it a Mavic? Is it a Mavic with a hot shoe for sensors? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So it's not a big change at all.
No. Just something that you plug on top, and up you go.
In truth, it's not an innovative new idea either, because 3DR did this 3 years ago on the Solo. It had the bay on there, and you could get the lights, and then other accessories came along. So really, it's just taking that idea, which I think has been slow to happen, but I think it is useful to have, not just thinking of the gimbal, but other items you can add or remove from a drone. The Mavic seems a strange one because it's so small, because quite a lot of the commercial people haven't been buying it as a concept. So I'm saying, well, that speaker's not loud enough, really. The LED's not bright enough. Saying, why haven't they done this on maybe like logically the Phantom or the Inspire? But I mean, I still think there will be police forces that will buy that. I mean, I think that's for the speaker mainly, just because of the fact that you can, you might be physically too far away to shout to somebody. At least you put the drone near to them and you can relay information to them. There is a delay because you've got to, as Louis mentioned, you don't actually have to record everything in advance. You can do it whilst you're flying, but you do actually have to record it, hit transmit, it goes, so there'll be a lag. So it's not a real-time conversation. It's just sending a message and getting it across. But there is definitely a use case for that. But it is expensive. You're paying almost an extra £1,000 for that benefit, and you definitely wouldn't pay that if you wanted a light on it, because you would just get a 3D mounted Lume cube. So that would cost you about £100. So
is that really the extra cost to put a speaker on? £1,000?
Yeah, the Mavic Enterprise is about £1,000 more expensive. So you're paying about £1,000 more to have that fixture on the top and the communication with it. So it's a good markup they're making. But then again, that's the way Enterprise works, isn't it? It's the way you make your money.
Is it true that they've got one with a bayonet adapter for the military?
They
Well,
cannot comment. They cannot comment and won't comment on any specific uses of their drones or outside the civil usage. You know what that
but
means, right,
it,
Bruce?
it immediately makes me think of the when Air Environment put the area denial modification onto Ravens, and all it was a whistle that they put on the side, and so when you flew, the whistle went because that would make people put their heads down so you could advance. But I can't remember the figure, the £1,000 upgrade on the map. You know, there's £1,000 again, and it was something stupid like that, and all it was a whistle. They just put a whistle on the side of the Mavic, not the
Hey,
Mavic.
while I remember, is anyone entering the Dredger drone competition in the Hong Kong harbour? Apparently, there's 40 drones they've put in the bottom of the harbour, and you can go diving for them. And if you get one, you win it.
Okay,
Did you
why
not
would
read
you
that
need
story?
a wet
There
drone?
was someone was doing a drone swarm display over the harbour for a wine
Oh,
festival or
okay.
something, and there was a GPS jammer, and 40 of them fell into the water.
Oh my God!
Well, again, in my arguing with people mode I was in today, I was talking to them about. I was talking to the air traffic head of a country near here. I can't remember which one. And I was saying about how you could spoof ADSB. And I said, no, you can't. I said, you can. No, you can't. No, you can. You really, really can. And which is, dear viewer, if you don't know, is get yourself a copy of X-Plane, get yourself a real ADSB unit, and pipe in the messages from X-Plane into the real ADSB unit, and it will transmit those those messages.
Come
So
on,
you
Gary. You're making this video being banned by YouTube.
Oh no,
Ex-
but that happens anyway, doesn't it? So that's fine. But that's the truth of it. Is that's there are off the shelf $100 simulators, and the reason why X-Plane has that is because if you are the developer of something for manned aircraft, you might want to test that instrument, and so X-Plane very very nicely talks lots of languages to different instruments that you might want to test. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can spoof it, and it's a 1990 technology with now we're rolling back around to GPS spoofing using really old GPS. If you have a properly approved GPS for ADSB, it is just US GPS signals only, and it is from 1990. It's absolute rubbish standard. And a modern, so what it says to me that those things that ended up in the harbour probably didn't have a multi-channel, multi-constellation GPS setup that was capable of detecting spoofing.
depends on the drones, Gary. I was
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
I was
But
looking at the DEF CON conference by a guy that was explaining how to disable your neighbor drone, and he was telling how the brand A behaved when you got GPS spoofing, brand B how it behaves. So he was explaining how certain brands of drones were behaving when you got GPS spoofing, GPS interference, Wi-Fi, hacking, and all that. So it was those DEF CON conferences are nice to go and see. Depends on the model of the drone. Some of them
yep, absolutely.
do really fall down if they get the GPS spoofed.
They do. They hit each other.
Sorry?
I think. All right then. If you are operating a display, and I'm sorry, dear viewers, if you are saying anything in the comments, I can't see them at the moment. So maybe there's comments. I don't know. So I'm not. Maybe I'm just ignoring you. I'm just being rude and just ignoring you. But so what's the standard then for our swarm displays? What's the standard GPS that we should have? The very cheapest one we can find, or must be a resilient system?
Why a GPS?
Oh yeah, okay, true. Also true. Yes, yes. So what system are we going to put on our super resilient swarm then?
So you get some kind of external positioning system that does not rely on GPS. Problem solved.
Okay, so then now that we run the world and we're regulators, have we decided that's the standard?
I don't know. You can, for instance, if you have those exclusion zones when the president of the US goes that not even cell phones work, how do you do a display of, how would Intel do a display in front of the president of the United States?
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't. They just use a 3D rendering, Louis.
Yeah, okay. Probably.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of silly problems that we've all created that need to resolve and upset regulators and stuff like that. And it is time to start moving on. I've been at this event. I've been super impressed. It's been so well run. It's been unbelievable, and I sort of had the feeling before I came that a lot of things seem to be already in place. And the very fact that it was the Swiss ambassador that gave a reception last night, and I sort of supper with him tonight, tells me that the Swiss government has chucked a ton of money at this, and they want the Swiss companies to win. Yeah, and that's that. So I may be watching. I know Winkler's German. Was it Swiss?
No, Winkler is Swiss.
It is Swiss, is it? Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
Well,
a spin-off.
that.
It's a spin-off
ETH.
of PX4 and ETH Zurich.
ETH, yeah. Well,
So,
it was.
And I've had some students from ETH, and they really are quite into all these drone thing. They want to do what I read. They want to be not Silicon Valley but Drone Valley in Switzerland. I believe it was Lawrence Meyer of PX4 that said that. On some,
Do you think they'll make
conference.
chocolate drones? Chocolate drones from Switzerland. That'd be great. Yeah, 3D printed.
No, come on, Bruce.
With a clock.
It's clocks, clocks all around.
But they had modified the one they used today. It wasn't their standard off-the-shelf mapping one, and they done it again. Why does everyone get upset at me when they've got the covers open and I go and take photos? Why would anyone? But they moved
nothing like this on the nothing like this on there, Gary.
No, nothing like that at all. And something like that could have easily nailed the challenge. Easily. But they're doing this again in June, and they're going to invite more teams and looking for investors. It's going to be bigger still, which is cool. But everybody modified their aircraft to take into account the conditions. It was very interesting, and they did tell me, so it was very good and very kind of them. So I've had a very, very, very nice time. It's been very, very nice indeed, and somebody else has paid for it all. Hooray! Makes it even better still. And getting here and visas and stuff was a bit interesting, but that's a story down the pub. Really. So, gentlemen, what else have you seen that I have not seen at all this week? Anything else very exciting?
Well, the latest installment of Brucepedia with another.
Brucepedia? Oh yes, Brucepedia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Bruce.
Well, that's because Bruce Chain is undergoing a few problems, isn't it, in the press and everything, and there are less believers in Bruce Chain now. So maybe it's okay with Brucepedia. Have there been
Brucepedia was explaining gyros and accelerometers, and he had that wonderful Bruce CAD and Bruce simulator all around.
Yes.
Now
yes,
it's something that the viewers should try to see when Bruce is not nagging, because now that the council allows Bruce to fly, in the parks, so he doesn't spend so much time nagging with the council, so he can create some more episodes of the Brucepedia.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, there's lots more coming.
And you seem to be going, I can't remember which special effect I saw this week. You're going a bit nuts with that. And you're going a bit too much with those effects.
What was it?
Oh, well, I can't remember. Didn't the Cessna do something different this time? I can't remember. Wasn't it low level or I can't remember.
No idea.
Oh, well, they're like, well, yes. The land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bruce, do you think Bruce has sold secrets to Russia?
Actually, I can hardly hear you
No.
now.
Well, that's
The
probably
audio's really crappy on.
I'm surprised the internet's lasted this long. Actually, it generally has been working for 5 minutes and then it's off for 30 seconds and it starts.
Do you know what you
again.
need there? Do you know what you need there? One of those drones that takes off and hovers and provides free internet to everyone. That's what you need there.
Well, it is free internet, so that's cool. But funny enough, they were talking about tethered. There was a chap who had a very homemade machine. In fact, I've got a video clip of him flying it. A chap called Ivan, a bit of a nothing nose, very nice chap. And because really manufacturing has to happen here, it's no good bringing in stuff from Europe and then having a great big chain to have to try and repair the things and all that sort of thing. And that's what a young Ivan is working on. But they quickly cobbled together to prove that it could be done in using Arducopter. But they cobbled together out of some bamboo that was lying around a multi-rotor. Because at the end of the day, a multi-rotor is only 2 sticks of 4 motors. And
Damn, I've done the same thing. I've got a bamboo multi-rotor out here. It's my $99 2-meter quadcopter, and it's nearly finished. It's got bamboo for the frame.
Right, I've definitely got to get this video up quick then. But but also it's pretty good. I mean, it's fantastic for vibration reduction. You can have a super expensive Lani frame, but a bit of wood is fantastic. So it flew. It was very nice. So I'll put that up in a minute. But that was talking to bringing manufacturing locally, and they're very much into fab labs and having 3D printed parts where you can, and completely 3D printed aircraft as well. All around the 4th industrial age is the big sort of tagline, with the supposition that Africa missed the first 2 industrial ages, and the 3rd one they sort of got involved. But this one, there's no reason why Africa can't be all over. And ministers never really making all the cooing and loving noises. It's been very cool, and I've run out of things to say. I don't even know why I started. I'm so tired. I don't even know why I started saying that.
So Gary, when that that event is over, does it end? That event
tomorrow. Tomorrow it ends. I'll tell you. Hang on a minute. Let's look here. Let us open the book. But look at the book. I mean, it's been very, very well organized. Tomorrow, day 3, we're having a plenary report back and panel discussion with Harrison Wolf and then John Christoph, the guy from SenseFly, and Greg Lindsay from Aerial Futures. Then we're having a heavy lift section at 9:30. Keynote 3 from Dan. Zipline are here tomorrow. And Mwanza Drone Port, talking about that. And then we're going to hear about what's going to happen in 2019, and then we're going for dreams. So that's tomorrow.
So then you'll get back to South Africa by using a urban mobility vehicle.
Can you guess those that may have come up as being a brave new future for us all? And yes, can you guess? Once again, I may have upset a few people with my thoughts on that as a brave new future for it all. So yes, all I've done is upset people. What I will say is that David Guerin is here, and he's an Outback Challenge judge, and that to me is like, wow, what an honour to be in the same place as someone from the Outback Challenge, and hopefully they're going to learn a lot from how they run it there, and really make it quite a great competition for.
That would be a nice thing to have an Outback Challenge. It would be the Savannah Challenge over there, to have a challenge for developing new techniques and things over there. That because you also have the room to do those kinds of competitions.
Yeah, but Outback Joe in Africa would be eaten by hyenas before you could rescue him.
It would, wouldn't it? But so where do you put a competition? Do you put a competition in the middle of nowhere, or do you put it right next to an airport that is a busy region? The city of Manza here, 3.5 million people. There's aircraft in so does that make the competition realistic, or do you plant the competition somewhere, and what would we do? No.
Now he's gone. Now
the
he's
meter
gone.
has run out again.
Now he's gone. Now he's gone.
Are we still here?
Yes, you're still here.
I'm afraid so.
One.
Yes, you're still here, Gary.
We are not so sure about Gary.
I was never here in the first place. So, but the quick question
much better.
Before we go, the quick question before we go, where would you have a competition? Would you have it in busy airspace or the middle of nowhere?
At the point that the Outback Challenge has gone this year, with all those restrictions being piped artificially to the ground control stations, I think the technology is quite capable of handling busy airspace. And you don't have enough you don't have Heathrow there, so it would be a nice somewhere middle of the middle to low traffic airport.
Because that introduces the element of having to speak to a real person, a real air trafficker. Having simulated threats is okay, and it's a good idea in the middle of nowhere, but it's not really simulated.
No, Gary, your opinion is completely being blanked.
And so, dear viewer.
And so, dear viewer, that's our great leader opinion being censored by the aviation authorities of all the world. So please wait for the next episode of Gary rambling about where to run the Africa Outback Challenge.
Are you on dial-up, Gary?
All right, it's time to go then, isn't it? It's plainly time to go. The internet is falling over. Thanks very much, dear viewer. Don't forget, try and do much that properly. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Thanks.
Bye. Bye, Gary.
Bye, all.
Bye, Gary.
You can press the live button, Gary.
I don't think he is here.
The stream will last for weeks now because he's gone.
Gary's gone.
Gary's gone, but the live button is on.
Yeah.
So let's talk about him, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. He's still live. He can't hear us. Might as well
the
go ahead and do
occasional syllable is getting through. Just the odd syllable.
Yeah. and
Oh my!
and a couple of teeth, as far as I can see.
Gary, just press the off button. Come on, you'll get it, Nicola, with cramps on his hands for doing the arts.
Yeah.
Somebody hit the button.
Hit the button, Gary.
Well, we might as well start on next week's now, eh? Welcome to the show, dear viewers.
Welcome to the show, dear viewers.
Wherever you might be.
Wherever you
Yeah,
might
that's
be, taking in consideration that we have now winter time. You've changed the hour, right? To Nicola.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've all changed to winter time.
It's still early, but it's getting late.
Oh, it's almost 11. Come on, it's
And they said
late.
time travel was impossible, eh?
Yeah. And we have Gary still on and laughing on the corner.
He spent all his money on scones and biscuits, so he can't afford to top up that internet meter, eh?
But what's your next episode of the Bruceopedia?
Well, I'm going to look at accelerometers because they're quite important and how they relate to gyros, and how by using both of them you can create an IMU, because with either alone you can't get a positive fix on an aircraft's attitude because you've got acceleration and rotation. So it's a little complicated, but trying to explain, probably dealing into also how flight controllers use these inputs to produce corrective inputs to maintain stability of models and aircraft.
And you're planning on going also to the GPSs, the multi-constellation, and
Yeah, we'll look at GPS units and how they work and so forth, and discuss the basic science, the triangulation and the time signals and so forth. So yeah, but I'll probably intersperse that with some other more, I don't want to sort of dwell entirely on one area for too long. So I'll break it up a bit with some other stuff. I'm back to really basic electronics. I've got one here which I've done already on how transistors work and what different types of transistors are and so forth, because it's quite interesting. A lot of people don't understand how it works, but it's really simple. And when you do understand it, you suddenly get a better appreciation for how these things have changed the technology we use.
yes, thanks to the cell phones for that, because that's where all these cell phones, and to the Wii from Nintendo. That's where everything started with the Wii, with those crazy controllers. I still have a bunch of them lying around.
Yeah, there's actually some of those internet set-top boxes also use a gyro-based thing to move a cursor around on the TV screen. I had one of those years ago, and it was irritatingly bad, but the potential was there.
Yeah.
And then you got VR and head tracking and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, but that's another category. The thing is with the gyros and the accelerometers is always the problem of the more expensive ones. It's a problem of chicken and egg. The better ones are more expensive because they're not produced in real numbers, and that's the main problem we have today. So we have to go and resort to all kinds of fancy mathematics, Kalman filters, and all that to compensate for errors on the hardware. So would make
you're a helicopter. You fly helicopters from way back. You must remember the old days of the mechanical gyros, and then the very first electronic gyros, and all the drift and all the performance problems they had.
Oh my God! The damn helicopter would fly differently if it took off from the shade or from the sun. It was.
Yeah, you couldn't do that backwards flying they do today.
Oh my God, it was so painful because you would go and do all the trimming, and the helicopter would fly perfectly one day. The next day, it was later in the day, so you would get some sun in the. Oh my God, it was painful back then.
But it's the same with the early tricopters and things. I remember building a tricopter with rate gyros out of helicopters, really cheap helicopter rate gyros, and you'd take off and start flying around. By the end of the flying session, you had the stick pegged right over because everything had drifted so far that it was trying to flip on you. That was, but those were the early days. We soldiered on. We didn't let that stop us, and look where we are now, in big trouble with the regulators.
Yeah, but
how things change.
No, but sometimes it's good to be back. For instance, I was mentioning that I was flying a glider that still has a brushed motor. That glider.
Louis, gliders don't have motors. You mean an airplane? Come on, if you're that old, you're a purist like me. You can't have a motor on a glider. It's not a glider then. It's just a high aspect ratio winged airplane.
Come on, don't tease me, Bruce. You know what I mean.
Okay, a motor glider then.
A motorized glider. Motor glider. I always wanted one of those that had the motor coming up from the fuselage.
Yeah.
I always wanted one of those, but they were so expensive back then, and still are expensive. But those were funny. And there was a guy that had one that had a small turbine. So that thing could fly fast, and it was amazing to see. But the amount of times that the turbine wouldn't start at the time was more than the number of times that the turbine would start. So it was.
And now full-size gliders are using model aircraft turbines as their power unit. They pop up with a turbine on it, and away they go. That's a regular model aircraft turbine, a lot of them.
Yeah.
The bigger ones. Yeah, it's crazy how technology has moved along. Did you see my video of the people from the Indian subcontinent building that guy building that turbine engine? That's going to change the hobby. Rolls-Royce, it's very much like the Rolls-Royce Trent engine.
I'm sure you've seen one meme of a drone from some guy in some country that attached four fans to 4 sticks and tried to make it fly.